Terry Barber is a best-selling author and founder of Lighthouse Catholic Media. Jesse Romero is a retired law enforcement officer, a former kickboxing champion with a master's degree in theology. And together, they share a passion for evangelization and PhDs in common sense. You're listening to The Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. To join the show, call 888-526-2151. Here's Terry and Jesse.
Is prayer your steering wheel, or is it your spare tire? Hey, welcome to the TJ Show. Life is short, death is for sure, sin is the problem, Jesus is the cure. Today's the feast day of St. Norbert. Well, I want to shout out to all my Norbertine friends out there, priests and brothers out in Orange County, one of the great orders of Southern California. Happy feast day of St. Norbertine. Today's responsorial psalm. Every single day in the Catholic Church, the Psalms are read, the Psalms are David. Today's psalm is John chapter, responsorial psalm today, Psalm 112. The Lord of the just one is firm, trust in the Lord. Blessed the man who fears the Lord, who greatly delights in his commands. Hey, how many of you have seen an evolution? Let's say those of you that were going to Holy Mass in the 40s and 50s, even the 60s, have you seen an evolution in the way Mass is celebrated? Have you heard of this great article? It says 9 things we lost in the liturgy. Have you heard of the article? Well, pour yourself a cup of coffee. I think you're going to want to hear. Very well written article. After the Second Vatican Council, which ended in 1965, as we all know, there were massive changes to the sacred liturgy, which is the official worship of the Catholic Church we call Holy Mass, which really involved the abandonment of many traditional practices. Have you heard of these 9 liturgical losses? Put on your seatbelts, perk up your ears. Here they go. Here's the first thing that we lost in the last 50 years. What do you think about this? We lost the ad orientem. In other words, we no longer celebrate the Mass with the priest leading us to the Father. Instead, we gaze at each other while proclaiming how great we are. I'm reading from this article. It's called 9 Things We Lost at the Mass. Very well written by Eric Sammons. He says, I can't imagine a more dramatic symbolic divergence than turning the priest away from God and towards the people he's supposed to be leading. It's like Moses trying to lead the chosen people to the promised land without ever looking towards Zion.
Yeah, number 2. But before I give the number 2, I want to just mention I had a tremendous interest in the liturgy when I started going to Mass daily at age 14 back in like early 70s. I'm at 72, 73. I wanted to understand the Mass, and I read the Second Vatican Council's document, and I scratched my head and said, wait a minute, what it says isn't being implemented, but who am I? I'm just a young punk trying to live my faith. And then years ago, in the late 80s, early 90s, I interviewed Abbot Boniface Luklix. He was one of the last surviving authors of the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy at the Vatican II Council. He was what they call a peritus. Here, you're going to discover for 3 hours when I interviewed him the story of how the Council's noble ideals for liturgical reform went astray during the following disastrous years of its implementation. I went through that. I saw disaster in the liturgy. I saw so many liturgical abuses. I thought, wait a minute, is this really what the Vatican Council wanted? This series, when I released it back in 1990, the Vatican called me and said, I want that set. We want to know what he has to say. This was the Congregation of Worship. They wanted this set. I probably promoted, I don't know how many thousands of these went out in the early 90s, and I thought, wait a minute, why don't I give it to our radio listeners so they're really have a feel for what went on 50 years ago by a man who's been dead for 20 years, and you're going to find out what really went on, what was really the intentions of the Second Vatican Council. I'll give it away, the first CD, or take the set, and you want to get this because it's going to help you understand the liturgy, and you're going to get some straight answers from a man who was there at all the whole Vatican II Council. There's nobody on planet Earth breathing that other than Benedict XVI who was there. And he's saying the same thing this abbot is saying about the liturgy. Call us at 877-526-2151. Here's one that I'll mention, altar rails. We don't have many altar rails anymore, if any, and some of the churches. It was a staple of Catholic churches for generations. Then, of course, it was tossed like the Hollywood actor discovered to be conservative. This loss, yeah, can you imagine that? This loss had to be led to secondary losses. The practice of receiving communion while kneeling, the distinct separation between the sanctuary and the nave. In fact, most people don't know what a nave is and call the whole church a sanctuary. It's true. Jesse, one of the things I'm sorry, I get passionate when you talk about the liturgy. One of the things happened to me today. We don't use a paten anymore in many churches. I'm receiving Holy Communion this morning, and some of you listeners are with me every morning at 6:20. I get it. I'm at church every morning at that time. The extraordinary minister of the Eucharist, she gave me Holy Communion, but she dropped the sacred host on the ground. Now, when I was a kid, being an altar server, an altar boy, I had a paten. So when I would stop the host from dropping on the ground, very rarely it would happen. But when it happened, I'd be stoked. I saved Jesus from falling on the ground. We don't have that anymore. And I'm just asking the question, what does that say? Lackadaisical. That's what we are. When it comes to the liturgy, who needs a paten? Wait a minute. It's Jesus Christ. See, I want to be able to show a non-Catholic that we really believe in the Eucharist. Okay, I know, Jesse. Stop. Jesse, this is a serious matter, bro. We're talking about the liturgy. The way you worship is the way you believe. And all I'm saying is listen to Abbot Boniface, because he really converted me to see what really went on at the council. Call 877-526-215. And I'll turn it back to you, Jess.
Terry used the word called peritus. It means expert.
Expert.
People are scratching their head. What does that mean, peritus?
Good
The
point.
Latin word. It means a theological expert at Vatican II.
Yep.
And Abbot Boniface was a theological expert that sat there. Terry interviewed him for 3 hours on Vatican II.
Yep.
Terry just mentioned something about this is based off an article, so it's not like Terry and me are coming up with this on our own. It's called 9 Things We've Lost in the Liturgy by Eric Sammons. Very well written. If you want to get the articles, go to catholicrc.org or go to jessieromero.com, and you can read all the articles that we're using today. Terry mentioned altar rails. Archbishop Sheen said this about altar rails. He says, altar rails is the best form of democracy. In other words, he said the richest Catholic and the poorest Catholic on welfare, or maybe living on the street, on Skid Row, Fulton Sheen says they are equal at the altar rail.
Amen.
Because they have to kneel down and open their mouth and stick out their tongue. The richest and the poorest, the most beautiful person, the ugliest person, the tallest, the shortest, that's the ultimate form of democracy, and that's been gone. Point number 3, 9 things that we've lost in the liturgy in the last couple of decades since Vatican II. Communion on the tongue. The article says this, and I'm leaning on the article because some of you are going to say, Jesse, Terry, how come you guys... We're leaning on an article, and we're just asking, what do you think about it? Okay, I got my opinions. What do you think? Communion on the tongue. It says this, although communion on the tongue is still allowed, the vast majority of people receive communion in the hand now. I once attended a first communion retreat for one of my daughters. This is the article I'm reading, in which the presenter told the children that first communion meant they had grown up and only babies are fed in the mouth. Afterwards, I told my daughter, in the eyes of God, we are all small children, and receiving on the tongue signifies our complete dependence on the Lord, like little birds receiving food from their mother.
Jesse, I'll just make a comment about that. Obviously, you can receive communion in the hand, on the mouth, but I will say this. Not many people know that the Vatican came out back in the 70s when that was allowed as an indult for the United States. It was 1977, I remember. And they said there's certain things that have to be there for receiving communion in the hand. And one of them is that there's no chance of having a profanation of the Eucharist. Number 2, we had to be conscious of the real presence. And I'll just give you my take on it. Many people in the Catholic Church, I've been interviewing them for dozens of years, actually 4 decades. Most Catholics don't understand the real presence. So I would say this. Again, my non-Catholic friends have told me, if you guys really believe in the real presence, why don't you guys act like it? And I think he's got a good point. So I'm not going to condemn anybody for receiving in the hand. That's the church allows that. But I'll tell you one thing. My non-Catholic friends, when they come and see, and I take them to Mass, and they see how we're acting in church, and then I try to tell them about the real presence, they look at me and they go, well, why are the people acting like they're at McDonald's receiving Holy Communion? What? It's sacrilegious to say that. But you know what? Sometimes I see that at churches where people are going to, they're strolling up like, hey, dude, yeah, man, that's cool. What? Whatever happened, we got to bring the sacredness back. That's what Benedict XVI said in his book on the liturgy back with Ignatius Press, The Spirit of the Liturgy. I'm not the only one saying this. I just think that I'm basically saying something the emperor has no clothes on, okay? So if I'm being critical, it's because I love the church and I love people and I want people to have a reverence for Jesus because I think Jesus wants that. That's my take.
We're not going to finish this article, so if you want to get it, it's called 9 Things We've Lost in the Liturgy. Go to CatholicRC.org or go to JesseRomero.com. Also on today's blog, I blogged the question. I take the best questions from our listeners and I answer them on my blog. Somebody asked me a question. Jesse, is wearing a rosary around the neck sacrilege? That's a great question. If you want the answer, go to my blog, JesseRomero.com, to see if you could wear a rosary around your neck. This Saturday, I'm going to be at St. Mary's Catholic Church in El Centro, California, speaking at a men's conference, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Terry?
I'll be at St. Cecilia's tonight speaking on Our Lady of Fatima. If you'd like me to come and speak on Our Lady of Fatima, call 877-526-215, and I'd love to come. Don't forget, you can get the failure of the liturgical reform by Abbot Boniface, who was the last founding individual who was at the Second Vatican Council. It's an amazing 3-hour interview. Get it by calling 877-526-2151, and it'll inspire you to love Jesus more. We'll be right back.
Back to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
Thanks for listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. We're too blessed to be stressed. We're too anointed to be disappointed. And if hope was money, we'd be billionaires. You know, I get excited on the radio program here with Jesse, and I'll tell you why. Because we have one goal, that is to get you to heaven. And it sometimes means saying things that might not be politically correct. So be it, because, you know, the truth is what sets us free. Let's go to Chris in Hacienda Heights. Chris, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Good morning, brothers. Good morning,
Chris.
Terry. Good morning, Jesse.
Hey, good morning. What's up?
I just want to let. Good morning. Another repentant sinner thanking God for all the beauty and grace that He has bestowed upon us.
Amen.
And I just wanted to make a comment on what you were talking about regarding the sacredness of the Mass and where has it gone.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I was able to attend a Tridentine Latin Mass at St. Therese in Alhambra.
Yeah.
And I saw how reverent and how awe-striking it was to actually be in the presence, and I'm talking in the complete presence of God.
Uh-huh.
I hadn't attended a Latin Mass in probably maybe 10 years, and my soul had been searching for something that was really true. And both of you have come to our have spoken. Not only on the air, but in other areas, on programs that I've visited.
Yeah.
And I sometimes I just wonder where we are in terms of reverence to the body of Christ when we attend Mass.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to tell you that, when you started talking about the patent and that the extraordinary minister had accidentally dropped the blessed
sacrament. Yeah.
Sacrament. So many things came to my mind. I feel so thankful that I got to hear what you had to say, and why. And I wonder why are these things being kind of moved aside? Where are those beautiful bells that we hear during when we kneel? Where is the reverence, when the Holy Eucharist is present? And listen, I'm as guilty as the next man. Okay,
I got it.
I know my fault. So today, when I attend Mass, just like anywhere I'm going, if I'm going to Mass, I put on a nice collared shirt with a tie and a jacket, because that's where I'm going. I'm going to Mass, and I'm trying to be in my Sunday best.
God bless you. Hey, Chris, I'm running out of time, but brother, I want to just say this to you. Reverence is coming back. I just made those comments today because I want to see it come back, and I'm going all over the country like Jesse does, and we're seeing a resurgence on the Mass with reverence, and I think there's a reform of the reform going on. This is what Benedict XVI wrote to us. I'm a founding member of the Adoramus organization, and we've got a letter from Pope Benedict saying that there does need to be a reform of the reform. So I'm just taking what the Holy Father has said because I've experienced it. But my friend, Chris, keep doing what you're doing. You're a good man. Jess, your thoughts?
Yep. All I could say is this, as Catholics, we're called to be as reverent as possible ourselves.
Amen.
We're not in charge of the sacred liturgy.
Nope.
But we can be as personally reverent. For example, here's a couple of things that lay Catholics can do to bring reverence. You can genuflect, or you can kneel down when you receive Holy Communion.
That's right.
That's a witness. You can receive communion in your tongue. That's a witness. You can bow down every time you hear the name of Jesus
Amen.
or Mary at Mass.
Amen.
Or the name of the three divine persons. That's another way to be a witness. You can... again, genuflect at the tabernacle when you walk into the church before you go into the pew and say your prayers. You can stay after Mass and say the St. Michael the Archangel prayer out loud with your family. So there's a lot of little things that we can do. You know, you can genuflect during the Creed when we're talking about the Incarnation during the Creed. There's a lot of little things that we can still do as lay Catholics to show people. When people around me, they see me bow down for my waist during the Creed, during the Incarnation, as we're proclaiming God becoming a man. People around me look, and then they have asked, "What are you doing?" I said, "It's right there in the mislead. It tells you to bow down."
Yep.
Jess, why do you bow your head? Do you got a neck? You got something? You got something the matter with your neck? Or, you got some injury? Every time you bow your head about 20 times at Mass. I said, no. Every time the name of Jesus or Mary or the Trinity's invoked, I bow my head. That's the part of the tradition of the church. So you can teach people by doing stuff. Again, genuflecting, receiving in the tongue. People ask, why are you doing that? Well, that's allowed. We can do this. This is the way to receive. Terry?
I just want to mention again, if you'd like to get the historical perspective on the liturgy, Abbot Boniface's interview that I did that the Vatican wanted, everybody wanted. It's a candid interview with Abbot Boniface. He's one of the last surviving authors of the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy of the Second Vatican Council. He was at all the documents of Vatican II. He was there for the liturgy. And you could discover inside how the Council's noble ideals for liturgical reform went astray. I'll give you one example. At Vatican II documents on the liturgy, it says the priest is going to turn around and say, "The Lord be with you," right? What is that indicating? That he's not facing you. Read it. I didn't make it up. It's right in the documents. I still say this, okay? And I'll be nailed for this. Okay, put your recorder on. Listen to this. Will the real Vatican II will the real Vatican II please stand up? I don't think we've actually implemented on the liturgy what Vatican II says. Now, I got all kinds of people waiting in line to say, "Terry, you're nuts." You know what? I'm nuts because I'm in love with Jesus Christ. And you know what? Can you tell I'm not afraid to let you know what I think? And I'll tell you what I think. I think we're returning back to sacredness because when only 25% of Catholics show up for Mass, there's a problem. And I think the problem is they don't understand the Mass. So call 877-526-2151 if you want to get that CD set, The Failure of the Liturgical Reform. Victor and Chino Hills, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show, brother.
Hey, how you doing there, Terry and Jesse?
I'm blessed.
How you guys doing?
We're blessed, brother. What's on your mind?
That's good. I quick question. Also, your conference was great this past weekend with Fred Krause. I really enjoyed myself.
Good.
But I was talking to a priest of mine in Chino, and I was telling him about my conversion story. Thanks to Jesse and yourself, Terry. You guys have done a lot for me.
Praise God.
But I did mention about receiving Holy Communion and how grateful I am now and the meaning of it. And I told him about kneeling. I kneel now when I receive Holy Communion.
Good.
And he says, "Yeah, we don't do that no more." My question to you guys, his response to me was, "Well, we don't do that no more because we don't want to bring attention to ourselves."
Yeah.
That was his words to me. And
God bless him.
Stood back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I stood back and I said, you know what, Father, with all respect, I do it for Jesus.
Yeah.
So my question is, and he's a real good priest. I mean, his sermons are on
that's
fire
awesome.
and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just his question, just the way he answered me was kind of weird. You know, we don't bring attention to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why we don't kneel down no more.
Victor, that question was asked to the Congregation of the Doctrine of Liturgy. And if you email me, I'll send you the document from the Vatican. You go to adoramus.org, okay? Victor, that's the website that Father Fessio, myself, and others founded back in the early 90s, where Benedict XVI helped us to do it, gave us inspiration. Ask that question.
Right.
They'll send you the document from the Vatican. The Congregation of the Doctrine of the Liturgy will respond and say, you have a right to kneel down for Holy Communion. Okay, so they can't refuse you. So I'm just saying, I'm not in management, Victor. I'm in sales. What does the church teach? That's all I want. Jess, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's been answered by the CDF, Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. You can just type it in and it'll come out. Because the bishops asked the Vatican that question, and they said it's an option for lay people, and nobody can take that away from us. Thanks a lot, brother. Thanks for listening.
One more.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Victor. God love you. Jorge and El Cajon, California, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. What's on your mind, brother?
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Jesse. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
God love you, brother. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Love you back. Love
Thanks,
you guys
man.
back.
You got it.
Just a quick comment regarding
sure
the adoration and the sacrament of the host.
Yes.
I've noticed that more than a couple times, that our priest at our church, and I'm not judging him.
Yeah, no.
But
no.
I just noticed that when it comes down to distributing the host, he sits down and he gives it. I guess
lets the lay people
deacon.
do it. Yeah, I got it. Oh,
yeah.
The deacon and the lay people. Okay.
Right. No, but I mean, I don't see anything wrong with him. I mean, again, I'm not judging, but I don't see anything wrong with him as far as physically, where he can actually give the host, because he is our basically Christ present right there. He's the one that should be giving us.
Jorge, here's what the church teaches on that. If he's elderly and he can't get up and give Holy Communion, not a problem. He's an ordinary minister of the Eucharist, like the deacon is. Any lay person is called an extraordinary minister of the Eucharist, okay? So I've been in churches where that happens, and the priest thinks he's being a nice guy by letting the lay people give out communion, but he doesn't know that the church wants him to give out Holy Communion if he's physically capable. So I would just encourage him lovingly. Whenever you talk to priests about these things, you have to do it in a loving manner, because sometimes they're not aware. They're thinking that, I don't want to step on the lay people. They enjoy giving out Holy Communion. Why don't they do that? I'll be honest with you. Are you ready for me to be politically incorrect, Jorge? Here it comes. And this is really going to get me in trouble. Are you ready? Here it comes. The priests at your parish on Sunday Mass should be out giving Holy Communion like it was when I was a kid, because they're the ordinary minister of the Eucharist. If they're watching television in the rectory when Mass is going on, they shouldn't be doing that. Now, who am I to say that? I'm just saying that's what the church is asking. So, Jorge, you nailed it. And again, lovingly share that with the pastor, that he's the ordinary minister. And please give us Jesus. That's all. Jorge, thanks for your call. Jesse, we got a second before we move.
For those of you that want to know more about all this, there's a document written by the Congregation for the Divine Worship. It's called Redemptionis Sacramentum. It answers all these questions. The Sacrament of Redemption. It answers all these questions. We're going to talk about pornography next.
Back to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
Great questions on the liturgy, but we're going to move to another topic. Again, there's a document that's been written actually by the Congregation for Divine Worship. It's called the Sacrament of Redemption. It was written back in 2004 by Cardinal Francis Arinzi. In Latin, it's pronounced Redemptionis Sacramentum. All the questions that you're all asking on the liturgy, the do's and don'ts, are in this document called the Sacrament of Redemption by Cardinal Arinzi, 2004, undersigned by John Paul II.
And Jesse, I have a CD set by Father Peter Stravinskas where he says 90% of the questions from his magazine, The Catholic Answer, were on Liturgy, and he did a CD set for us on 3 CDs on that document. And I hate to tell you this, everybody, but this material is mind-boggling. If you really want to know what the document says, go ahead and call us at 877-526-2151. Get Father Peter Stravinsky's set, The Catholic Answer to Liturgical Abuse. I mean, it's very well said. You can call 877-526-2151. Jesse, let's move to another topic.
Yep, there's 5 reasons why Satan loves pornography.
Oh, my God.
There's a great professor out at the college my son goes to, Benedictine. He writes good stuff on this topic all the time. And he basically says that pornography is the 21st century mass media juggernaut. Now, the author's called Tom Hoops. He's from Benedictine College. He said he interviewed an exorcist recently on the issue of pornography, and the exorcist told him the following. He says that Satan is pornography's biggest fan. Why?
Yeah.
Well, the exorcist gave some of the reasons that were written by Tom Hoops. Number 1, Satan loves pornography because Satan hates freedom.
Repeat that. Repeat that, because that's so important.
First and foremost, Satan loves pornography because Satan hates freedom. Now, think about this. Once a year, when we renew our baptismal promises, the church asks us, do you reject Satan so as to live in the freedom of God's children? Think about that. So when you use pornography, instead of saying, I do reject Satan, you're saying, I do not. That's what you're saying, because pornography militates against your free will.
That's right.
In fact, there's even science, well-known science behind this, that the human brain, when it's aroused by erotic images, it dumps chemicals into the bloodstream, and that pushes the throttle of the viewer to full speed, and your body's now saying, give me more, give me more. And so this idle online curiosity, it quickly becomes addictive, an addictive obsession. And the same thing happens, by the way, to women. Don't think just men are. Women also are involved in the pornography industry. But here's what happens to women. Here's how they get sucked in. They start seeking modeling careers. They want to make some more money. You know, they're in tough economic times. So they find themselves, in the clutches of this degrading industry. And they say, well, I'll just do this for a while to make some extra cash. And all of a sudden, they got images and video of themselves that they're going to regret for the rest of their life, because this stuff is online now. And, this is one of the ways. A recent pornography scam is not unlike what happens anyway to legitimate pornographic actresses. They're lured by money, and they find themselves in the clutches of men who only want to use them.
And you know what, Jess? The second reason Satan loves pornography, it is ultimate structure of sin. When we lie or cheat or steal, we commit a sin that implicates each of us alone. But when we're involved in others in our sins, that's worse. But what about sin that helps create, perpetuate, and supercharge international syndicates of sin? See, using pornography churns the vortex of sin that Satan uses to drag whole groups of people, from performers, from programmers, sellers, and unsuspected bystanders, down to his lair. That's what pornography does. Continue, Jesse.
Number 3, here's why Satan loves pornography. Satan loves disfiguring the image of God.
Yeah.
And that's you and I. That's the baptized. Satan's ultimate target isn't us, it's God. Since Satan can't touch God, as remember that song years ago from my MC Hammer, You Can't Touch This. He can't touch God. But since we're made in the image and likeness of God, guess what? He could touch us. We're the next best thing. If you understood, I'm going to make you very, if you understood how immense your soul is and how beautiful your soul is, the mirror image of the Trinity, you would shudder with the responsibility that you have. And Satan understands, and he lunges at every opportunity to shatter the image and likeness of God, which you are.
You know, Jesse, focus on the family. James Dobson, he's an expert on pornography. He said that 80% of the management of the porn industry are women. That really surprised me when he said that. And, before I go to the next one, there's a song they sing in hell that the devil teaches people how to sing. It says, I did it my way. And there's a song they sing in heaven, I did it his way. So the fourth thing that we're talking about, demons love to make human beings look like animals. What? Yeah, the chapter 12 of Revelation. It is the vision of a woman, a flesh and blood human being, clothed with the sun and crowned with the stars, which infuriates the disobedient angels. Read that. Demons, creatures of pure spirit, cannot abide a material creature being made higher than them. The very thought disgusts them. So they delight in showing how disgusting these human creatures really are. An exorcist described to him how victims of possession will often imitate animals. That's true. Grunting, arching their backs. Demons don't possess more people. Demons don't possess more people because we save them the trouble. We choose to imitate animals on our own. Wow.
There's so many of you out there that I've talked to. You've called me up. You've emailed me.
Yeah.
California, Arizona. You have seen family members that have possession, partial possession, obsession, oppression. And we've had long conversations. And you've seen the way when a demon takes over a friend or a family member, you see what happens. A demon reduces a human person to act like an animal, to move like an animal,
wow,
to make sounds like an animal, to grunt like an animal. That's precisely what the devil wants to do because he hates us. Here's the fifth reason why the devil loves pornography. Here's the fifth reason, okay? The devil loves to destroy the innocence of children.
Amen.
Think about this. When the apostles were arguing about who's the greatest person in the kingdom of heaven in Matthew chapter 18, what does our Lord do? Our blessed Lord places a child in their midst. Now, a few verses later, Jesus adds that anyone who causes a child to sin would be better off thrown into the sea with a millstone tied around his neck. Well, guess what? The demons have already chosen the millstone, okay? Now they want to cause as many children to sin as possible because they know where they're going. They're going to end up in hell. They already have the millstone, and they want to try a millstone on our necks.
Well said. I want to mention, for those who just tuned in, earlier in the show, we did talk about the liturgy and the sacredness of the liturgy, and we are offering The Failure of the Liturgical Reform by Abbot Boniface. It's an interview with Abbot Boniface, who was the last surviving authors of the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy of the Second Vatican Council. You'll discover in this 3-hour interview the story of how the Council's noble ideals for liturgical reform went astray during the disastrous years of the 60s. And it's just a fact. So you might want to get that. But you can call that at 877-526-2151. Also, we're talking about pornography. And Jess Romero, my brother, did a series, Every Man's Battle, a 3-CD set, giving you resources of how to fight pornography. You're welcome to pick that up also by calling 877-526-2151. And by the way, everyone, thank you. Those who are selling a house right now, if they went to CatholicRC.org and click on Pro-Life Realtor, when they sell your house, they're going to give back a nice size of donation back to the Terry and Jesse show. So if you go to CatholicRC.org, you can do that. Also, just Mom, listen, June 24th, we have the Women's Conference coming up at the Sacred Heart Chapel. I have Melissa Zavala. She was the one that's been on our radio where she spent 5 years as a Muslim. She got pulled out of the Catholic faith down in San Diego in school. But she's got a beautiful testimony, and she's got some good things to say for us women. And also my wife, Mary Danielle, she's got some good things to say for you women about motherhood and what the saints have said and what St. John Paul II's document is on the women. So if you want to come to that conference, just call 877-526-2151. You can come, you can go online to CatholicRC.org. Tonight, I'm going to be speaking on Our Lady of Fatima out in Canyon Country to St. Cecilia's Parish in Canyon Country. And I'd love to have you be there. If you want me to come to speak to your parish on Our Lady of Fatima or any other topic, you're welcome to call me at 877-526-2151. I'm out in the weekend. I'm going to be in Arizona out in the wild with a bunch of fathers and sons, and I'll be preaching out there this weekend. So If you want Jess Romero to come to your parish, go to jesseromero.com. If you want me to come, just call 877-526-2151. Jess?
This Saturday, I'm going to be at a men's conference at El Centro, California from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be in English. That's June 10th, this Saturday, St. Mary's Catholic Church in El Centro, California. Also, if you've ever wondered, can I wear a rosary around my neck? Is it sacrilege? I answer that question. Go to my blog, Jesse Romero, click on blog, and you'll get the Catholic response. Is wearing a rosary around the neck sacrilege? I think we got a phone call.
Yeah, we do, but we're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll take that Christine and Monrovia right after the music, after the break. And again, you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. If you want to get that failure of the liturgical reform and really understand what went on at Vatican II on the liturgy, go right to the source. He was there at all the documents of Vatican II. Amazing man, Abbot Boniface. Just call 877-526-2151 and listen to the man that was at the council. If you can't do it anymore, do it now. 877-526-2151. We'll be right back.
This is Dr. Scott Hahn, and you are listening to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio.
Blue Collar Catholic Radio. Let's go to the phone lines. We've got somebody, Christine, calling from Monrovia, California. Go ahead, Christine, you're on.
Yes. Hi, Terry and Jesse. Thank you so much for your show. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, this I'm calling. It's not related to porn, but it is related to the demonic.
Yep.
I was calling maybe to get a little input from you guys. Our Monrovia Library is putting on a workshop for tarot cards, and I'm going to the city council meeting tonight at 7:30 to, say that this is an appropriate thing is not an appropriate thing for, the library to be doing and presenting. It's a workshop that's available to teens and adults. So I just, if you guys had any input that might help me.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Go ahead, Jesse, first.
That's called sanctifying the temporal order, what you're doing.
Amen.
That's exactly evangelization,
you.
sanctifying. You're taking the gospel out to the streets. Tarot cards were invented back around the 15th century, but right around the 18th century, tarot cards began being used in the occult. They were used as tools of divination, almost exclusively right around the 18th century. And tarot cards, it's a New Age practice. It's part of the modern New Age culture. And basically, it involves divinization. What does that mean? Or excuse me, divination, not divinization. Divination means to foretell the future, to foretell hidden things. And that's what they try to do through these tarot cards. And so as Catholics, if you want to read up before you go to the meeting tonight, read up paragraph 2116 and 2117. Both those sections of the Catechism, 2116 and 2117, talk about the dangers of occult practices, and all forms of divination are to be rejected by Catholics. And tarot cards today are almost exclusively used for divination to try to foretell the future. Dangerous, stay away from it. Arm yourself with the Catechism, 2116, 2117.
Christine, can I give you some advice that they're not going to care about the Catechism or about our Bible, at that meeting? But here's what here's my approach, which is a little different, and maybe I'm way off, but this is what I would do. I would say at the meeting, why are we promoting a religion? Because the government has acknowledged that Satanism is a religion in America. And tarot cards are right along with the Satanists. So if that's the case, I would just ask, we should not be promoting one religion over another. So I'm for not promoting this because it's a religious practice that I think, could. In other words, we're saying it's a good thing and it's a religion. And so most people that are there who are secularists can relate to that more than the Catechism or our Bible. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, okay. I would say this is part of the New Age religion, and that's promoting a religion.
Yeah.
It's part of the New Age religion, and this is and I object to it as a citizen of the city.
Yep. Does that make sense to you?
Thank
Or
you.
what are your thoughts,
Yes.
Christine? Okay. Thank you. Hey,
yes.
God love you for doing what you're doing, young lady. That's all I can say. I'm
thanks.
proud of you.
And if there's anybody listening who's in the Monrovia area,
Sure.
come on over to the city council meeting at 7:30. And
Perfect.
but yeah, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I guess I was kind of thinking along those lines too.
Good.
That this is an occult practice, and it's not a neutral topic that the library should be promoting.
Okay.
It's
Well,
not appropriate.
Christine, thanks for your call. God bless
Thank you, Christine. There's an article we're not going to get to. You're going to have to, if you want to read it yourself, it's go to CatholicRC.org or JesseRomero.com.
Mm-hmm.
It says, it's called, and he's one of my favorite writers when it comes to all things Islam.
Yeah.
His name's William Kilpatrick. He wrote an article called The Manchester Bomber, Martyr or Murder. I can tell you about this William Kilpatrick. He has impeccable credentials. Former professor, Boston College, author, an academic, again, unimpeachable credentials. Here's basically what the article says. I'll give it in 2 or 3 sentences. Here, okay? He's basically saying President Trump went over to Saudi Arabia and he called the terrorism, he used the word Islamic terror, and he said this to the Saudis: religious leaders must make this absolutely clear. If you choose the path of terror, your life will be empty. Your life will be brief, and your soul will be condemned. Close quote. President Trump said, religious leaders must make this absolutely clear. If you choose the path of terror, your soul will be condemned. Hey. Now, here's what William Kirkpatrick's saying in the article, and I agree with him, okay? He's saying, I mean, this took a lot of courage to say this in Saudi Arabia, surrounded by Muslims, in a country that sponsors terrorism. And for him to say, you Saudis have to tell all the terrorists around the world that their souls are going to be condemned if they kill somebody. Now, do you know how much courage that took? They could have killed him in 1 second flat. But because, and here's what William Kirkpatrick is basically saying. Why is it that we're not hearing this from religious leaders? Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox. Why aren't they saying what a secular president is saying? The truth. If you kill an innocent person, that's a violation of the 5th commandment. You're going to go to hell. So William Kirkpatrick is asking the question, as a faithful Catholic, why is it that a secular president is the only voice out there, like a John the Baptist, telling the Saudi Arabians and the whole world, because they're watching it, what'll happen if you're a terrorist and kill somebody innocently, you're going to go to hell. Nobody else. There's silence. Everybody else in the religious world says, oh, we pray for the souls that just passed away. Oh, what a tragedy this was over the weekend. Oh, this is so sad what happened. Why don't people have the courage, like President Trump, to say, you know what, terrorist? You kill innocent people. You're not going to go with 72 virgins. You're going to go to hell. How come he's the only person saying this?
Jesse, that comment that's a rhetorical question. Why is it? I would just say this. Somebody's praying hard for President Trump, because I have not heard a president say something like that in my entire lifetime, okay? I'm just honest with you. How in the world can a president, that's the last person on the earth that I expect to say that. I would expect religious people like Pope Benedict XVI in 2006, when he said, in that statement at the college about Islam, he says, where's the value? Why aren't you telling your people to stop the killing of innocent life? Why don't they do that? I just think it's common sense, and common sense is not that common anymore. Hey, you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. Did this hour go fast? Wow, we talked about the liturgical reforms. And again, I want you to be a high information Catholic so that you can love Jesus more and more and get to heaven. And, because I've been around the block for 40 years, this series by Father Peter Stravinskas, Redemption Sacramentum, the Catholic Answer to Liturgical Abuses, 3D CD set, he really covers what St. Pope John Paul II has been touching on with the liturgical abuses. And it's just what the church teaches. But sometimes it takes a little courage, like what President Trump did. But it takes a little courage to talk about this, because most people want to say, don't talk about this because you might make somebody upset. Well, let me ask you something. Are we more afraid of upsetting man than God? That's what I want to ask myself. Am I wanting to be politically correct to say, gee, I don't want to talk about, more reverence at the Mass because someone might be offended? Hey, wait a minute. What about God? See, I think we have to serve God first. And if you want to get some good information, good CDs on this topic, The Failure of the Liturgical Reform by Abbot Boniface, the Vatican actually ordered a copy. You can call 877-526-2151 or Father Stravinsky's series. Call 877-526-2151.
Spiritual work of mercy number 1, instruct the ignorant.
Yeah,
what President Trump did, he instructed the ignorant, because Muslims believe, based on the Quran, that if they kill a non-Muslim for the sake of Allah to advance Islam, or if they kill an apostate, a Muslim who's left the Islamic religion, that they will the men will go to paradise and have 73 virgins forever. Okay? So President Trump basically said, that's not true. You're going to condemn your soul for all eternity in hell if you kill an innocent person. What did he do? He performed a spiritual work of mercy, instruct the ignorant. Because this article says, here's the last thing I'll say. This article, Kirkpatrick says, look at this one sentence. Young men join the jihad for a variety of reasons, but we know from letters, diaries, and interviews that the number one reason why people should join the jihadists is because of the virgins in paradise. That's the primary motive.
And thank God that Pope Francis has said this: to kill in the name of God is blasphemy. That's Pope Francis, and he's spot on. Folks, we've got to run, and we're out of time, but I want to ask you, our listener, to continue to tell your friends about the Terry and Jesse Show and about all the shows on Immaculate Heart Radio. Because, see what we're doing is, yes, we're trying to rile you up to fall deeper in love with Jesus Christ and his bride, the church. And we give away CDs. We talk about things that mean something. I mean, if you can't, the worship of God is so important that's why we brought this up today to you, because we want you to be a radioactive Catholic. Yes, so that you can share this message with your friends and family. Again, women, if you want to come to our women's conference, where it's coming up in June 24th, Sacred Heart Chapel, come on down. Go online to CatholicRC.org. Tomorrow, we have some surprises for you on the topics, okay? I can only tell you that if you like today's topics and how fast this show went, yeah, we'd like another hour of radio. Hey, how about you? We sure would like to be with you again tomorrow, same time, same station. So please tune in. And don't forget, you can call us at 877-526-2151 to get The Failure of the Liturgical Reform, which the Vatican got a copy years ago. This is an amazing CD set on the liturgy. If you get the liturgy right, you get everything right. Call 877-526-2151. May God richly bless you and your family.